Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, and I am presiding along the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. Nice evening, cool little breeze. It's around the 60s, if I presume. But it's all good, just kicking back. Had a nice little meal. Beef stew soup, very good. And today, I'm going to do another segment, or episode, forgive me, which is entitled Mexican Citizens Topple Cartels and Are Rewarded with Government Retaliation. It was written by Brandon Smith, and it has been posted January 21st of this year. And that's what I say, but narrate it, give you my intake. Now I'll begin. Vigilantes control much of the area surrounding Apazigan, a key stronghold of the vicious Knights Templar drug cartel. There is one rule to citizens' defiance that, in my opinion, surpasses all others in strategic importance, and it is the rule that I have tried to drive home for many years. I would call it the non-participation principle and would summarize it as follows. When facing a corrupt system, provide for yourself and your community those necessities that the system cannot or will not. Become an independent from establishment-controlled paradigms. If you and your community do this, the system will have one of two choices. One, admit that you don't need them anyone and fade into the fog of history. Two, or reveal its tyrannical nature and full attempt to force you back into dependence. In either case, the citizenry gained the upper hand, even in the event of government retaliation or a full-blown shooting war. Descending movements maintain the moral high ground, which is absolute vital to legitimate victory. No revolutionary movement for freedom can succeed without honoring this rule. All independent solutions to social destabilization and despotism rely on it. Any solutions that ignore it are destined for failure. I am hard-pressed to think of a better recent example of a non-participation principle in action than the rise of Mexican Citizens Militia in the western state of Michoacan. I will get that correct. Michoacan, like most of Mexico, has long been overrun with violent drug cartels that terrorize private citizens, while Mexican authorities did nothing in response. I could easily incite the abject corruption of the Mexican government as primary culprit in continue of dominance of cartel culture. I could also point out the long-time involvement of the CIA in drug trafficking in Mexico and its negative effects on the overall social development of the nation. That is not a conspiracy theory, but openly recognized fact. The Mexican people have nowhere to turn, and this, in my view, has always been by design. Disarm and suppress while government-aided cartels left the public dry. It is no wonder that many Mexicans have turned to illegal immigration as means of escape. The Mexican government, in turn, has always fought for more porous border with the U.S. exactly because it was descending and dissatisfied citizens to run to the United States instead of staying and fighting back. My personal distaste for illegal immigration has always been predicted on the fact that it allows the criminal oligarchy within Mexico to continue unabated without opposition. Unhappy Mexicans can simply run away from their problems to America and feed off our wide-open welfare system. They are never forced to confront the tyranny within their own country. Under this paradigm, Mexico would never change for the better. Some in the Mexican public, however, have been courageous enough to stay and fight back against rampant theft, kidnapping, and murder. The people of Michoacan, fed up with the fear and subjugation of the cartels and the inaction of the government, have taken a page from the American Revolution, organizing citizen militias, then have now driven cartels in the region almost entirely. These militias have decided to no longer rely upon government intervention and have taken independent action outside of the forced authoritarian structure. The fantastic measure of this accomplishment is not appreciated by many people in America. Though many cartels are populated with well-trained former Mexican military special ops and even covert operation agents, the citizens of Michoacan have proven that the cartels are a paper tiger. They can defeat through guerrilla tactics and force of will, which many nihilists often deny is even possible. NPR reported Joel Gutierrez, a militia member of the Michoacan region, says residents were sick of the cartel kidnapping, murdering, and stealing. That's why we took up arms, says Gutierrez, 19. The local and state police did nothing to protect us. The militiamen have been patrolling their towns and inspecting cars and checkpoints like this one for nearly a year. All that time, the federal police did little to stop them, and that time seemed to encourage the movement. But this tacit approval appeared to end last weekend when the number of militias mushroomed and surrounded Apathagan, a town of 100,000 people and the Knights Templar stronghold. A major battle between militias and the cartel seemed imminent. The federal government sent in thousands of police and troops to disarm the civilian patrols. A deadly confrontation ensued. Federal soldiers fired into a crowd of civilian militia supporters, killing 2. Well, fascinating. Militia leader Estanislao Beltran says government should have gone after the real criminals, the Knights Templar, and not those defending themselves. He vehemently denied rumors that he takes funds from the rival group. The cartels have been terrorizing us for more than a decade, Beltran says. Why we would side with any of them? Initially, local authorities encouraged the militias or stayed out of their way. The citizens armed themselves with semi-automatic weapons, risking government reprisal in order to defend their homes, and so far, they have been victorious. One would think that the federal government of Mexico would be enthusiastic about such victories against the cartels they claim to have been fighting against for decades. But when common citizens take control of their own destinies, this often incurs the wrath of the establishment as well. The Mexican government has decided to reward the brave people of Michoacan with the threat of military invasion and disarmament. Like those scumbags down there are bought and paid for, and I call them out. In some cases, government forces have indeed fired upon militia supporters, killing innocents while exposing the true intentions of the Mexican political structure. Mainstream coverage of the situation in the western states of Mexico has been a minimal at best, and I find the more I learn about the movement in the region, the more I find the kinship with them. Whether we realize it or not, we are fighting the same fight. We are working toward the same goal of liberty. Though we speak different languages and herald from different cultures, recent government propaganda accusing the Michoacan militias of working with the rival cartels should ring familiar with those of us in the American liberty movement. We are the new terrorists, the new boogeyman of a falter American epoch. We are painted as the villains, and in this, strangely, I find considerable amount of solace. If the liberty movement were not effective in its activism, if we did not present a legitimate threat to the criminal establishment, they would simply ignore us, then seek to vilify us. The militias of Michoacan have taken a stand. They have drawn their line in the sand, and I wish I could fight alongside them. Of course, we have our own fight and our own enemies to contend with here in the United States. As this fight develops, we have much to learn from the events in western Mexico. Government retaliation has been met with widespread anger from coast to coast, and despite the general mainstream media mitigation of coverage, the American public is beginning to rally around the people of Michoacan as well. The non-participation principle prevails yet again. The liberty movement in the United States must begin providing mutual aid and self-defense measures in a localized fashion if we have any hope of supplanting the effects of globalization and centralization of federal totalitarianism. We must begin constructing our own neighborhood watches, our own emergency response teams, our own food and medical supply stores, and our own alternative economies and trade markets that don't rely on controlled networks. We must break from the system, and in the process, I break the system entirely. I am growing increasingly exhausted from the effete rationalizations of frightened activists posing as non-aggression proponents. The pungent smog of cowardice that follows them curls in the nostrils, and the obvious transparency of their fear is a bit sickening. I wish I could convey how refreshing it is to witness a group of common people, regardless of nationality, with a set of brass balls bearing large enough to face off against government-supported drug cartels notorious for mass murders and decapitation. If you want to see into the future, into the destiny of America, I suggest you examine carefully the developments of the Mexican region. It is no mistake that good men and women are being disarmed around the world, and America is certainly not exempt. Look at what happens when we are not helpless. We can crush cold and calculating drug cartels as easily as we can crush psychopathic government entities. We are capable of superhuman feats. We are capable of globalist overthrow. We are capable of unthinkable greatness. The rise of non-participation groups gives me such hope for the future. For if the most corrupt and criminally saturated of societies can find it within themselves to fight, to truly fight, regardless of the odds and regardless of the supposed consequences, then there is a chance for us all. We must look beyond the odds of success and become men, real men, once again. We must face down evil without reservation and without apprehension. We must be willing to risk everything. Otherwise, there is absolutely nothing to gain. That was Brandon Smith, who is the founder of the Alternative Market Project. And you could check his website out at join alt-market.com. That's alt-market.com. Yep, he's absolutely correct. And I can say one thing too. It's very interesting what's going on in Mexico. People revolting. It's not capitalism, open comparative free market. It's mostly cartel marketing or fascism. All right, that's for controlling that nation. And Mexico can be one of the most self-relied nations on earth. They have so much abundance of natural resources. But when you have corporate bastards want to control everyone and treat them like peasants and move them out of their villages or towns, that's what I call fascism. And we could look at here on their 1917 Constitution of Mexico, Title 1, Chapter 1, Individual Guarantees, and Article 10 on their document, which is under LatinAmericanStudies.org, and it states, the inhabitants of the United Mexican States are entitled to have arms of any kind in their possession for their protection and legitimate defense, except such as are great expressly forbidden by law, or which the nation may reserve for the exclusive use of the Army, Navy, or National Guard, but they may not carry arms within inhabited places without complying with police regulations. So it's like you can have them, but it's conditional. So technically, they have privileges, not compared to our Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And very, very interesting there. And one moment. Oh, I'm going to get a little skipping around here. So I have to look at that and say the government wants to get involved with the cartel. It's not Knights Templar. As far as I'm concerned, it's considered treason in their constitution. And the people in those areas and beyond need to stand up and fight to do what's right. And I will give them homage 100%, because they got a lot more courage than a lot of people I know. And what Thomas Jefferson's quote famous quote. He says, "I hold it that